First, jack up the car. This is the rear end, and here you can see two spots, differential and the frame, where you can lift up the car. But on the differential, you cannot lift up on the sealing or joint spot cause it can crack the seal or loosen the joint, so be careful. Make sure to put something under the front wheels to stop it from rolling. I'm gonna lift up the car on the frame. It's easy, and the frame is made of solid metal, and there is no worry of damaging anything. Secure the jack stands under the designated spot and make sure car is on the jack stands solid and secure. For extra safety, I don't remove the floor jack. Unscrew the wheel lug nuts and remove the wheel. This is wheel hub nut. You can see the nut is pinched. You just want to unpinch the nut by tapping it with the hammer and the chisel or screwdriver. Clean up the surface with a wire brush and brake cleaner. Then apply penetrating oil, which helps to ease the removal process of hub nut. Now free up the pinching on the nut. You can see it will be free to unscrew. These wheel hubs are notorious for hard to remove since they are torqued down until 250 Nm and they might be there for quite some time and build up some rust. So apply some penetrating oil and the torch might be needed. You need a 36mm 12-point socket. Heating around the nut will expand the metal and help to break the bond between nut and the axle shaft due to the rust which has developed over the years. First attempt is failed. I'm gonna heat up more and use breaker bar this time. You can see how tough the nut is. My breaker bar is even flexing, but it broke free the nut. Now unscrew the brake rotor Allen screw. These tend to strip or break also. So my tip is to clean the Allen head with a wire brush and with a pick to remove the rust and dirt. And then you wanna hit the screw with some punch or chisel. Be careful not to damage the Allen head. Just give it a shock to break the rust bond. You can also use impact driver specially made for this kind of application. Here you can see it broke free. I tell you guys, the same brake disc screw on the both front side of the wheel broke on me. I was not careful then. This time I did not want to take any chances. Moving on to unscrew the hub nut and break the axle free out of the hub, which can be very hard at the time. This is also the time if you don't have proper tools and unable to break free the axle, then you can stop here and take the car to the shop. If axle is stuck into the hub badly, then you're gonna need hub removal tool and heat source, for example some sort of torch, and lots of hammering. You will see in a sec what I mean. Apply some penetrating oil. You can put the axle nut back and hit it with the hammer so that it won't damage the axle, and if it's break free, then continue further, else you're gonna need universal hub removal tool. As usual, this axle is stuck, so I'm gonna use the tool. There are many different kinds of tool for this application. I'm using this universal hub removal tool from Hazet. It's easy to use and kind of self-explanatory. Here you can see the setup. You can also put the screwdriver, or in my case, I'm using long punch in between caliper and the disc, which will block the wheel from spinning. Heat up the surrounding of axle, and the bond between axle and hub will break. Now start turning the forcing screw. Forcing screw will push the axle against the hub. Once the axle is pushed a bit, it will make a sound, and once axle break free against the hub, you cannot push it far. You just wanna only break free the axle. That's your target. Then you need to remove the hub out of the axle. You can also use the hammer to hit the forcing screw. It will not destroy the thread of forcing screw, but it will help significantly to push the axle out. I'm gonna use copper hammer since I don't wanna damage the head of the forcing screw. It's my brand new tool. But seems like it will give us a tough time. You can use a torch time to time and continue. Let the fun begin. Now it will break free the axle and listen the sound when it breaks free. That is the sound. It's a win. You can inspect progress if the axle is moving or not. Believe me, this was tougher than you see in the video. I struggled a lot and closed the camera to save the battery. Now remove the caliper assembly. To do that, these two 16mm bolts needed to be removed. You might need breaker bar or long ratchet to remove those, since these can be tough too. Use some screwdriver or pry bar to push the caliper piston and remove the caliper assembly. Hang them securely with a S-hook or bungee cord to avoid stress on the brake line to avoid any damage or leakage. Now remove the brake disc. These can be stuck too. You can also use a copper hammer or rubber mallet and slightly whack the disc and it will come out. Hear the bad bearing noise. That is why I'm replacing it. Another sign of bad bearing is the hub is moving freely. There are many ways to remove the hub out. You can use the same universal hub removal tool, or you can use slide hammer puller. In this case, I'm going to use slide hammer puller. Again, this is also self-explanatory and very easy to use. You will see that in a sec. You might need heating again also. This is going to be tough as well. Let's the party begin. That was a hell of a wheel bearing. Here you can see the inner race of bearing stuck with the hub, and rest of the bearing is still in the knuckle assembly, which is pretty normal. This is just because the retaining ring won't allow the rest of the bearing out. Now we're gonna clean up the rust around the snap ring and hit it with a chisel or screwdriver to break the rust free from the ring. You need to be very careful not to break the snap ring, else it will be more difficult to remove the ring out of the assembly. Take some pick and clean up the rust, and then use some screwdriver or chisel to work your way around. Patience is a key. You can see here, snap ring starts to move freely. Now you're gonna need a snap ring plier to remove it. Words of caution: wear safety glasses, cause these snap rings fly with a tremendous amount of force and can hurt your eyes. You will see that soon what I mean. That what I meant. Watch one more time. Next step is to remove the old bearing out of the knuckle. For this, you need to remove the axle out of the knuckle assembly. There are two ways to do that. The most common way is to unscrew these E12 inverted Torx bolts and remove the whole axle out of the way. In this car, the exhaust is in a way, and I need to remove the exhaust out of the way in order to remove the axle. Since these Torx bolts are so rusty and exhaust bolts are also rusty, so I'm gonna try method 2. So the method 2 is to unbolt the 3 control arms, and it will give enough clearance and will be able to remove the axle out of the hub. In addition, you need to remove the sway bar end link and the ABS sensor for clearance and to avoid any damage to the sensor and its cable. You will see that soon what I mean. You will need 18mm wrench or socket to remove these control arms. Upper control arm is free. Now we remove forward control arm. Here you can see it's hard to use ratchet due to clearance. That is why I'm gonna unbolt the sway bar end link and then unbolt the forward control arm. This control arm is free now. Now we're gonna remove the rear side control arm. This is also free now. Time to remove the ABS sensor. Be careful, these tends to break. Slowly and gently break it free with the help of pry bar. It's out now and put it aside securely. Now axle can be removed. Next step is to remove the old bearing out, and you're gonna need bearing removal kit. It includes a forcing screw, receiver cup and the backing plate. This process is pretty simple too. Take the right size receiver cup and appropriate backing plate, which will then push the bearing into the receiver cup. From the back side, you will need a right size wrench to hold the nut, and on the front side you will then turn the forcing screw and bearing start pushing into the receiver cup. To make the job easier, I'm gonna use again a torch to heat up the surrounding area. Old bearing is out. Make sure to clean up the area and lubricate it with some grease so that bearing seated well easily. In addition, clean up the lining where snap ring will set in. Make sure to match up the new bearing with the old one for the right size, and also check first which side of the bearing will get inward. Usually in case of ABS sensor, magnetic side goes inward, and usually magnetic side of the bearing is covered with the plastic cap. You can also check the magnetic side with some metal. Apply some lube and insert the new bearing in. You can also persuade it with slightly hitting with a rubber mallet and make sure bearing aligns straight. You're gonna use same kit, but this time you don't need receiver cup. You just need appropriate size of plate to push the bearing in. Here is the setup, you can see. During the process, you can inspect the process if bearing is going straight in. You can push the bearing until it will stop going in. You're gonna notice that, and it's hard to push further, so you stop there. Now the bearing seated completely. Let's insert the snap ring back into the slot. You will hear the sound when the snap ring set in properly. Here you go. Next, we're gonna put the hub back into the knuckle, but before that, we need to remove the inner race out of the hub. You can cut it with the angle grinder and hit the crack with a hammer and chisel, or you can use 2-jaw puller. can't move it further since the adapter I'm using has a bigger diameter than the hub, so I need some right size socket. Here you go, the inner race is out. Clean up the inner surface so that axle can get in easily. I'm using wire brush and brake cleaner. Now to push the hub into the knuckle, you need an adapter, and for the back side, you're gonna need appropriate adapter with the same size as inner race of the bearing. When you're pushing the hub in, it will put the pressure on inner side of the bearing race, and inner race can come out, so that is why you need an adapter same size as the inner race of the bearing on the back side. You will see that what I mean while pushing the hub in. Apply some lube and push the hub with the rubber mallet gingerly and make sure hub is straight. Now the hub is set. Let's push the hub in carefully and make sure it's going straight. Finally, the hub seated in properly. Clean up the rust on the axle, apply some grease and push the axle into the hub. Sometimes these can be hard too, and there is special tool for this too, but we are not gonna need it. Let's put the axle back into the hub. Another tip here is once the axle get into the hub little bit enough, you can screw the hub nut and start tightening it. This way, axle will start getting into the hub easily. You can also hit the hub with a rubber mallet to persuade it. Next, bolt back all the control arms and sway bar end link. I did not film this since it's very easy and also video already has become so long. While bolting back the control arms, you might need to support the assembly from the bottom side with a small floor jack and push upward. And that way, when you bolt back control arms, it will have less stress on the bushings and bushing will last longer. After putting all the control arms back in, install back the ABS sensor. The sensor slot is very rusty. I'm gonna clean up with the wire brush and install it back. Clean up the brake disc with a brake cleaner and install back. Next, install back the brake caliper assembly. After installing the wheel hub nut with proper torque specs, in my case it's 250 Nm, you also need to pinch the nut the same way as it was with the old nut. You can see here what I mean. Put the wheel back in and torque it down. Okay guys, job is done. It was a long video, but I wanted to make this video in details so that anyone with the right tools can do this job and learn from this video. Hope you guys enjoy the video. If this video was helpful, consider to subscribe my channel. Thanks for watching. See you in another video.